Welcome to People Love Process. The shape building tool, in my opinion, is one of the better features that the Illustrator team has released for Adobe Illustrator. And ever since it was released, I've been using it quite a bit. I use it two different ways, but in this specific style, we're going to be working out here, which I would call a positive negative design. We'll be creating using that tool because it makes the process so incredibly easy and really fast. Now, all the shape building tool is they took the Boolean methods you would find in the Pathfinder palette and they just worked it into a standalone tool. That said, on most vector building where I use a combination of freeform shapes created with the pen tool and basic shapes like the ellipse tool, the rectangle tool, I'll use the Pathfinder palette because it's just faster to use that than to try to select another tool and do it. But this style is ideal for it, and I just keep in mind that what I'm going to be creating here is kind of a strange design because I'm just using it to demonstrate this functionality, but you could use it to create any kind of positive negative designs. Positive negative design, you might not even know what I'm talking about, so let's just jump right into it. This was my sketch. I'm only drawing half of it because it's a symmetric. I can scan this in, bring it into Photoshop, and go ahead and reflect it over to get my full design. So this of sorts is a graphic alien icon, if you want to think of it that way. And we're just going to select this, go to the transparency palette, and I'll just go ahead and select 20% and just lock that layer. And of course, where do I start? I start with the simplest shapes possible, elliptical shapes and squares. Now, we're going to be using this rectangle here for no other reason than to trim our art. But you can see I have one elliptical shape here, another elliptical shape here, and all I'm going to do is take these two and minus front the top shape from the back shape like that. And then I have the rectangle here because this is where the center of the design is. And with this selected, I'll select this one and then I'll trim it because I want it to reflect from left to right. And I don't want that part overlapping when we combine the shapes. So super easy building. You can see other things like the circles in here. The more I looked at it, I thought I didn't like these extra circles, so I just kept one here and the same on the bottom of his mouth. I just kind of minimized the amount of circles. So even though I sketch stuff out, I always make changes as I'm working and developing to align with what I think is going to work best. So we're going to use more elliptical shapes. Now, when I'm shape building, there's something that I pay attention to. I'm just going to zoom in on this a little more. Is we have an elliptical shape here, and this is, elliptical tool. You hold shift down, it'll do it from the center out. You don't hold shift down, it'll do it from the top right down. And then if you don't hold anything down, you can, do this type of thing and get any kind of shape, whether it's vertical or horizontal, etc. By the way, I think I said hold shift down. You hold shift and option. Option centers it, and then shift just keeps it a distinct proportion intact. If you just hold option down, it does it from the inside out, whether horizontal or vertical. If you want to keep it proportionate, as soon as you add shift to the option being held down, it'll lock it into an appropriate circle. So that's how the tool functionality works for that in general. And I created these two ellipses just to combine them because I wanted a perfect arch. I didn't want to just click, I could get the pen tool and just simply go like this and close the shape, grab the anchor point tool and do this to get the eye. That's fine. But I wanted these like really smooth. And so I like doing it with shapes instead. Now, because I use the ellipse tool, if you notice I have an anchor here, and if I select this one, I have an anchor here. And I really don't want extra anchors in this. So what I do, because it's a perfect circle, I can just rotate this so that anchor's outside of the area that's going to combine. And I can take this and rotate it until that's outside the area. So the overlapping shapes that we'll make will only add 2 anchor points. And then I can go intersect on Pathfinder palette, and that creates the shape I want. So I always kind of clean stuff up as much as I can as I'm going on along. The same principle here where I want this to reflect from one side to another, so I can copy this. If you have your contextual menu bar open, you can select the shape and hit the duplicate button, or I find it faster and I don't like the contextual menu bar getting in my way. I just hit F3, that's my clone command. Go to the reflect tool, find a central anchor point like on this circle here or bottom of this first shape we did, and reflect it over. Select these 2 elliptical shapes, go intersect, and it creates the in shape that I want. So simple shape building methods here. Let's go ahead and just do a few more things. I have the teeth here. And by the way, all these teeth I created actually using a plugin that I love called the Arch by Points tool. It's part of Subscribe by Astute Graphics. Because let's say I didn't have this left teeth built yet. I could go over here, and it just allows me to click where I want to start like this, go to the next point, click, and I can just create those curves immediately like this, and then just curve it. Click here and just continue along that path until I get what I want. So we'll start from here. I'll go here, and I could just keep on building this if I wanted to go down here and bend it, so on and so forth. So that's how I created the teeth. If you don't have a plugin, you can still do it. It'll just take a little longer. You just go to the anchor point tool. I like to place my anchors first. So let's say that's the same general shape we want to create. The anchors are in light locations. The curves aren't there. So grab the anchor point tool right here and come over, and then we can just bend our path to fit what we want. So either or is fine. Like that. So you can do it with native tools. You don't need plugins. I only show plugins because it shows options and it tends to be faster and more efficient for your time. But we're going to take this elliptical shape on front, select the teeth, and I'll minus front to trim those off like that. And that's the simple shape building I do to create all these elements. Now, if I go ahead and turn these off, turn this layer on, you can see we have actually, I shouldn't have turned the sketch off. You can see we have all of our shapes here. Just realize we don't have this shape in here, so I'll use that same Arc by Points tool, and I'll just create this really quick, like that, and like that. And we'll create that like that. So we have all of our shapes, and there's a few shapes here that cascade from one side to the other. I just realized I didn't bring my teeth with me. So let's go back, and I'll just bring that to this layer like that. So we have this kind of football shape. This transcends left and right, so we don't need to reflect this or this circle in the middle or this circle in the middle. This one we want to reflect over. And so what I usually do, instead of keeping it a perfect straight line, I'll add an anchor point and just nudge this over like this. Grab this shape, clone it, Command-C, Command-F, go to the Reflect tool, find a central anchor point, reflect it over, and I purposely overlap it so it doesn't create like a line. Sometimes Illustrator will do that. I just find it builds cleaner if you do it this way. So all we're going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and reflect everything over I need to have reflected. So we'll select all these shapes because these shapes that we have selected aren't on the right. So I'll go ahead and copy these. Command-C, Command-F makes a clone of it Once again, I have that set up as a keyboard shortcut. I've been using that for like 20 years now. So it's just second nature. Reflect everything over. And this is where you'll have to go in and fuse all these elements together. So we have this on the left, this on the right. We can go ahead and unite those. We can take this element that's on the right and left, and we can unite these elements like this. Same thing with these horn shapes we initially created. We can do that, and we can unite those together. And we'll go ahead and take this shape and unite it together. And I think we have everything. Oh, here's a good example of what Illustrator. So that's what happens sometimes. Why? I don't know. I do know. An Adobe engineer told me years ago when I asked about this, and it's never been resolved, by the way. Oh, Illustrator is too perfect. Okay, yeah, right. So I'm going to undo the unite. So you can see we have this on this side and then this shape on this side. So this is why I'll go in, add an anchor on at least one of them. You don't have to do it on both. And I'll bring it over like this so it overlaps. Then I'll select these two. Then I'll go unite. That tends, 99% of the time, tends to fix that problem. Illustrator should be smart enough, especially with Sensei and artificial intelligence. It should be smart enough to know you wouldn't want to keep that line. Now, if I go up here and select these, notice it happened on the horns. So how do you fix it after the fact? Like that goes back a few minutes. So I'd have to Command Z, 20 times or something to get back to it? Well, you don't have to. I would just click into isolation mode. So we just have these shapes selected. And I would go ahead and select the left hemisphere, and I'd, once again, add an anchor, drag it over so it's purposely overlapping, click out of isolation mode, select this, and redo the Unite feature. And you can see most of it's fixed. If we go into isolation mode, actually it is fixed. So that did resolve that. I'm looking at another shape. Boy, this did it on a lot of the shapes. Normally, I don't run into it this much, but this is a good example. I guess it's good to show you because if you shape build, specifically isometric, you can see how for some reason Illustrator said, oh, so you want this. Well, no, I don't want that. So I'm going to go ahead and just delete that anchor. But that tells me I have a redundant anchor point down here. And if I drag select this area, you can see there's two anchors there, but they're piggybacking on one another. If I drag one out, you can see the other one like that. This is where plugins come in handy because how do you fix this in Illustrator? There is no native way to simply do it. You would have to rebuild one side and try to do it and see if it does it again, which is a hassle. But I use a plugin called Vector Scribe, and I like it because I can select a shape. I just look over here, and if this button shows up, that means there's a redundant anchor point. So we have 7 points in this shape. If I click this, it's now 6. So if I highlight this, it should show both handles. That means it's removed the redundant anchor point. That's why I use plugins, because there's just certain things you need to be able to do because Illustrator creates the problem. And that's how I resolve it, is by using that. So this is how I would unite both sides. And you might be thinking, well, aren't you going to subtract these out of these? Well, I am, but this is all the ingredients. Think of it as ingredients to create the final positive negative design. And we're going to do that with the shape building tool. So let me turn this on. The first thing we're going to do is going to seem a little counterproductive and unintuitive. I'm going to select everything. We don't want any stroke. So we'll go no stroke, and I'm just going to fill everything with black. And you might be going, well, that's kind of odd. You can't really see anything except the highlight. That's all we need to see, because then I'm going to go to the shape building tool. And the way the shape building tool works, as you're over an element, it'll highlight it, and you can see the plus sign next to the cursor. That means this will add to shape, and if you hold Option down, this means it would minus from shape. So if I minus this, it would make it disappear. Now I'm going to undo that because I don't want to do that. So this is all how it works. Let's go ahead and zoom in so we're a little closer here. So I'll zoom in. There we go. That's better. I'm going to take the shape building tool, and I'm going to go ahead and hold Option down and just draw across this, because I want that to minus out of these kind of horn shapes on the top of his head like that. And you can see how fast it goes. That's kind of cool. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to minus this, holding Option down, because I want this to go from positive to a negative. This will be negative here. Then we'll go down here. I'll go ahead and create these notches in the horns on the side of the head there. I'll go over here, holding Option down and dragging through the shapes that we want it to minus, like that. Then we can go down under his chin. This is going to be minus. The circles will be positive. This side will be minus, like that. Positive and minus. So positive, negative designs are cool. I remember in art school we had to do these projects, and they give us certain themes, or we could pick the theme, but the only thing we could use is cut black paper on a white paper background, and we had to create the designs in positive, negative, and it forces you to simplify. And it was actually a good thing to do, but a lot harder to do a design like this with cut paper, a lot faster in vector. And then as we get up here, I want these shapes to fuse in with these shapes down here. Actually, the eyes will be minus. We can minus those out. So I'm going to let go of Option, and I'm going to drag through here like that to add to those shapes. And I'll drag through here to add those, and to add those. Add these. These are like his, I don't know, eyelashes, I guess. And then we'll hold Option down again, because this goes to negative here, and then a negative here. And when you're not trying to explain things and tell stories about art school, it goes even faster. But that's how you can create a positive, negative design like this relatively quick. Now, I usually select everything, and then I just go Unite. And then if you check appearance, this is going to default to a group. So I usually change it to a compound path. And this is awesome. It's so much easier to build. If I tried to do with all of those base ingredient shapes that we colored black and then use the shape building tool, if I tried to do this with the Pathfinder, it'd be a hot mess and confusing. So that's why the shape building tool is ideal for creating a positive, negative design. There's other ideal aspects too regarding strokes and editing with the shape building tool. So this design is going to be very simply colored. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on. We'll zoom out a little bit, and we'll just take this. We're going to color it this base color like that. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the rectangle tool, snap to the anchor here, because I think this would look good if we divide it in half. So I'll take our source art we colored green, I'll clone it, I'll select this rectangle, and I'll go intersect. So we create a half shape like that, and I'm going to color it the darker kind of color, the secondary green there. I think that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to do something else. I'm going to select this. We can turn off our tonal family now, and I'm going to clone it, Command-C, Command-F. So it made a copy. If I go ahead and go to my graphic styles and just color this in outline, you can see the shapes are still underneath it. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to fill this with white, get rid of the outline. We don't need that. And then I'm going to go to Effect. I'm going to go to Stylize. I'm going to go to Inner Glow. And we're going to set this to multiply. And let's pick our color first. So we'll go in here, and I want to pick this like dark green because this alien is all about green. And I'll click OK like that. And you can see it's using our settings here, but I want to adjust these. I don't want it so opaque. I'll go 60 like that. And I think on the blur, I want it a little bigger. So I'm going to go 7 like that. And so you can see it's doing an inner glow on that white shape. Now, why did I color it white? Because I'm going to apply a blend mode to this shape, not just the effect that's part of the shape. So I'm going to click OK. And now I'm going to go ahead and go down to the transparency palette. And I'll go ahead and set this for multiply. So you can see it multiplies over the colors that are below it. Let's deselect. You can see it better. I think that looks pretty good. And since this is kind of like an alien design, I thought it'd be good to have some typography that goes to it. Maybe it's tribal aliens. And it even has its own language. Yes, I even go out of my way to make up kind of a hieroglyphic looking alien language here. So, but that's how this design came out. And if you're going to use it on a white background, this style, positive negative, works great all in one color on a dark background too. So let me turn this on, this layer on. You can see what it looks like. It's just we have it white here, and I've divided it like I did the previous one here. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a gradient in here. So I'm going to cheat and just click on this graphic style to apply a gradient. And then I'll go ahead and multiply this and then just adjust it because I want it kind of faint. So we'll do 20% like that. And I think that looks even better. So there is another line-based style using strokes that the shape building tool is also really ideal for, but we'll cover that in a future episode. And as always, accessing the exercise files for any of my People Love Process movies helps support this channel and allows me to develop new content and spend the time to do so. I do invest quite a bit of time developing all of these movies for you to watch, and I hope you enjoy it. And I really, really do appreciate your support. So check out the link in the description below on any of my content on the People Love channel, and you can access the exact files that I show in the video. Thank you to everyone who watches, supports this channel. You have helped me grow it, and I really appreciate it. Also, those who give my movies a simple like helps me as well. All of it, I'm thankful that you enjoy the content and you keep engaging with it. That makes the whole process a whole lot funner for me. I love getting your questions. So if you ever have a question about something, or if you want to suggest something to me, by all means do so. I love interacting with those people who watch this content. So until next time, thank you for watching People Love Process. And as always, I hope this content helps you to improve your own creative process.